Data protection. We hear so much about it in Ireland and in England about your data, protecting your data, etc. And the government, on the other hand, turns around and says, yeah, you need a digital ID as we see in England, so we know what you post and we know what you think. 1984 2.0, let's put it that way. But the Irish government are considering this, and what they're using too is about the young people, protecting young people. And that's all well and good, but really, can you trust our governments in the Western world? Can you trust they're doing it for the, as they would say here and now, the common good? But what is the common good? Who is the common good? Who does it benefit? They never seem to explain that. They just say the common good. It's a catchphrase, but they never go into details on what is the common good or who does it benefit. They never go into that. But the common good. But yeah, so the government are considering here what they like in Australia. It's very tough rules coming in Australia, and to a certain degree, you can look at it from the other direction too. That a lot of kids in Australia and a lot of kids around the world too are seeing very harmful content on social media, on Twitter, take for example, on X, on other platforms. I've seen some atrocious stuff on X, to be totally honest. I've seen terrible stuff, like awful stuff nobody should have to see. Even as an adult, it sticks with you. So to a certain extent I understand, because there's some very harmful stuff, but there's some positive stuff on social media. And I think there's a way of getting around it. Like, people will get around it easily enough with VPNs, etc. But I don't know. It's hard to know. Will it benefit anybody? Like, pretty much bringing in this ban, if the Irish government go ahead with it. But pretty much what I presume the Irish government would do is take, for example, Twitter or YouTube or Facebook, that you have to verify your age. It won't be like a total block like what they have in Australia. When you're under 18, you can't use it at all. You can't have an account, etc. But I would assume what the Irish government would do, you have to show your passport or your identification to access YouTube or social media to prove your age. But this is the thing. It's not like the Irish government know who you are and who I am, etc. They can find it in an instant. The county councils, etc. They have databases. They can find it. They just need to know who your name, and they can find you. It's not an issue. The state knows who you are pretty much. There's no hiding from the state nowadays, unfortunately. Nobody's anonymous, and that's what I'm trying to say. But the thing about it is, these social media companies, think for example, for argument's sake, Facebook and the morning Meta, right? They say the Irish government says, yeah, you need an ID. You need an ID to access Facebook to confirm that you're, say for example, 25, 26, whatever, to access Facebook. And were you a good boy? You didn't commit any thought crimes. But yeah, so Meta, Mark Zuckerberg, will have your passport and your ID. Or your credit card in some cases too. And do you really trust them with your social media companies, particularly Facebook and other crowds? Do you really trust them with your data, like knowing who you are, your intimate details, etc.? To be totally honest, the majority of people, I never verified any app because I don't trust social media companies. I don't trust them, even though my name is out there, where I am, etc. And all, there's no secret. I'm not anonymous. I'm a person. My name is out there. But at the same time, too, do you really willing to give them to strangers? Like, would you willingly go into a shop now tomorrow morning and say to somebody, here you go, here's my credit card, here's my name and my social security number, PPS number, fire away? Would you really do that? Nobody would do it. But yeah, just going to Australia for a second. Now, Australia is passing a very huge, the first probably in any country, that nobody can pretty much access TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, or but I think it's YouTube too, pretty much all social media platforms. Now, obviously, there is a lot of bullying, etc. going on, and I do sympathise with the poor family of this young girl that died by suicide. It's a dreadful thing what happened to her, and many kids like her. But at the same time, too, we have to look at it from the perspective of everybody else in the world, too. Because there is some good things, don't get me wrong, but there's a lot of bad stuff. And the governments use this to their own advantage, knowing what you're saying. They can find out who you are if you commit thought crimes. Now, it's a hard argument to talk about, because at the same time too, there is genuine upset, and I've seen it on the internet, terrifying stuff, really, really awful stuff that you will never get out of your head when you see it, especially for your young child that's seeing that stuff. It will hurt you. But there's also the other side of the coin. Really, should you do this to our society? Is it not the parents' job to make sure that child is making sure that they're not on social media? Is it the government's job? And I suppose this is the main thing about democracy. and the West, is it the government's job to tell you what to do? Because it's not, until you're 18, you're basically under the protection of your guardians, either that be a mother or father. And it's not the government's job to tell you what to do and how to do it. That's the way I see it in democracy. That's what separates us from China, from North Korea, etc. That we have freedom, and that parents can decide what their children can do, etc. Because I don't think the government's responsibility as a state is just to look after the economy, and that's it. The government should have no other autonomy to do anything. That's my opinion, because that's the whole democracy. But the government shouldn't be a big government telling everybody what to do in their own personal lives. But we could argue till the cows come home about them issues. But my personal take is that it is worrying, because they use this, again, a lot of governments use it, these terrible situations that happen to people, for their own gain. You take for example in Australia, they find out, take for example, if you on Twitter, you need an ID to get on Twitter, even though you might be 35, just to confirm that you're 35. And you post something like it gets the Australian government, or it gets the Australian Prime Minister, that you disagree with them on this. The Australian government could find out where you live, etc., your identity, etc., by looking into your past, but they have your thing. And it's worrying, but they can do that anyway. But it's really worrying particularly when it's linked to your social media and stuff, and people can find out. And of course, if somebody does break the law and stuff, does harmful stuff on the internet to people in real life and stuff, they should face the consequences of the law and the consequences of their actions. But it's a hard one to talk about, and it's a hard one. But and I don't think I don't know how you would how would you kind of work that out, because it is a hard thing, because the Irish Constitution says it very clearly that everybody's entitled to opinion. But it's hard to know what is the right thing to do here, because it's not right to say to everybody, give me your ID and stuff to use social media, even though you're paying for it, etc. I don't know. It's a hard one. It's a tough one, particularly when you see these things being done on social media. It's a hard one to decide what is right. But I suppose that is up to the Irish public. But I don't know. It's weird, but I wish it didn't have. It probably will come in, I say, eventually. Maybe not this year or next year, but eventually probably will come in this country where you have to have an ID or digital ID to access social media. But I do think that's a worry for civil liberties and your democracy and your democratic rights to your freedom of speech. Even though they could say it's for the common good, it's to protect young people. But we really know in the way that the government, when they use it to protect people, when the government actually care, when the government pretend to care about things, usually it's not for the people that they say it is for their benefit. It's usually for their own benefit and their own agenda. But anyway, let me know what you think. Subscribe for more, and bye.